So first off, I think before anything else, kind of fun, but it says recording number 61. And it's kind of wild that like we just kind of keep doing this every week. Like he brought this up and I kind of thought about it. I'm like, this is pretty wild that like we just have a podcast now and the views keep going up and people are listening and finding it interesting and interacting with us on social. And I'm kind of proud of that. Like that's pretty sweet. Like kind of sappy moment here. I know we're supposed to talk about Kamron, but I wanted to bring that up first.
No, it's a good point. This is arguably the most successful I've ever been at a hobby in my life, you know?
Yeah, no. Shout out to the Podyssey team.
Yeah, for sure. For anyone who doesn't know and wants to see the difference a set of professionals makes, go back and watch and or listen to our first few episodes when Ibby was taking his weekend time to edit the recordings. And we had no intro music. We had no branding. It was just like a Zoom meeting plugged into a tool.
Yeah, it was a dial tone.
That's right. It was a dial tone. Yeah.
The transition between the intro and the thing was a dial tone, right? Like I made a dial tone. I literally just found a dial tone bip and I was like, this is good enough.
And then we found Podyssey, or they found us, or however that worked. And dude, they're incredible.
They're incredible.
It's taken so much work off of us, and we just get to focus on having fun conversations. And I think that's been the key. I think every time we've talked about making this bigger and more, then it starts to feel like work, but it being just conversations has been great.
Yeah, I guess who did we have on? Like you didn't know him before, so I'll have you introduce him.
Yeah, that seems logical. So we had a guy named Kamron Kunce on. He leads marketing and CX, and I think that was even before we met. That was what I was excited about. Right? We often have conversations with marketing leaders or CX leaders, and so to have someone who is in charge of both was cool. RJ Young is a huge company with massive brands as clients, and so I was excited to hear how they were kind of tackling that. In my head, it was going to be a lot more similar to some of the roles I've had, where I used to collaborate very closely with CX, and that was sort of the marketing CX side of things. And at Built, originally the CX team did report to the CMO, and so that's kind of what I was expecting it to be. And that's not what it was. It was fascinating to hear kind of what they define the CX org as being responsible for and how they approach that, doing it at a massive company. That wasn't me sneezing.
The sneeze behind you. The sneeze behind you.
All eloquent monologues and intros have a background sneeze. So there you go.
A random sneeze behind him. No, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. It's crazy. Like they're not a massive. It's not like the world's biggest business. I guess for some reason I thought it was like more than 1,000 people. 700 is still fairly large, but it's like, I don't know. Look, like even at a company our size, we're like pretty small. It's hard to give everyone personalized one-on-one attention, and his vibe is just a very, I don't know. He's got the Southern charm thing too.
Dude, I want to have a glass of whiskey with that man.
Yeah. I agree with that. He was just so cool. Just super fun, great conversation. Yeah, I think everyone will enjoy it. Do we have anything else?
There's no way he doesn't have like a golden retriever or something like that, or like a hunting dog or something like that.
I hope he does. I'm gonna get to know him better.
I just want to hang out with this man.
Yeah, I want to hang out with him. We should go to Nashville.
Yeah.
Everyone enjoy the episode. I'm Ibby Syed.
I'm Sean Collins.
And this is Numbers and Narratives. All right. Well, Kamron, thank you so much for coming on today. Before we jump in, do you want to explain your role, and also just like RJ Young and its, crazy, cool, transformative history for us?
Absolutely. First off, thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to talk to both of you. So my name is Kamron Kunce. Personally, I'm from Nashville. I'm a native, which is rare in today's world because everyone is moving to Nashville. It's the cool city. I married my high school sweetheart. So we've unofficially been together for over 20 years, married for around 13 years at this point. We have 2 boys. My oldest is 8 and the younger one is about to be 6. And then professionally, I am the VP of Marketing and Customer Experience for RJ Young. RJ Young is a business technology company. So anything that like printing and copiers, that's what we're historically known for. But in today's time, we actually have dramatically expanded our offerings to things like managed IT, audio visual technology, digital communications, on-site printing, all these things. So the company has really transformed over the years. And in 2025, RJ Young is 70 years old. So we've reached a really big milestone within our company in both of like what we're known for historically, but also looking ahead and getting really excited about what we're seeing in the future, especially around the teams of marketing and customer experience.
Yeah. So do you mind, and how can you tell us just like a really, a quick amount of your background? Like, how'd you get here?
It's an interesting story. So, being a Nashville native, I went out of college, I went directly into the music industry. Unlike several others, I'm actually not trying to start a band or write music or anything. I love music. And so going into that industry just made sense for me. And honestly, guys, I'm so appreciative of that time, even though I had to work my ass off. And you get paid no money, you work all the time. But that's really where I learned a lot of what I do actually still today. During that time, social media was the shiny new thing that no one really knew how to use for marketing purposes. So I was literally just thrown in the deep end and tried to help these new and emerging artists establish themselves online. Like, what does that even mean at that point? Sell merchandise, sell tickets, all these things. So it was like for me, it was like the timing of it was perfect because I learned so much because no one knew really what they were doing at that point. And then beyond that, like, I just transitioned from other places. So I did the music thing. So I had like up to 14 accounts and I would just help those new and emerging artists. Like, it's even funny, like, did you guys know that Kevin Costner has a band?
What?
Sneakily, I'm a huge Kevin Costner fan.
Yeah, it's Kevin Costner in the Modern West.
Wait, say more.
Yeah. So I used to work for his account. I would do social media for them and help them with their band dates. And so when they would come to Nashville, I got to hang out with Kevin Costner on his tour bus, which was awesome. So that's kind of like my claim to fame during that period of my life. But then transitioning from the music industry, I went to a company that had been in Nashville for several years. This can go as long as you want, as far as how many details you want. But essentially, it was a manufacturing company that was historically a business to business. But they had realized that one of their products had taken off in the business to business world, and it was a height adjustable standing desk. So at that time, they launched a brand new startup company called Updesk, which was direct to consumer as opposed to business, and they had no idea on how to do that. So they hired me to launch this brand, get it on social media, get it in the hands of influencers, and it ultimately turned into a multi-million-dollar company. Again, this is a whole nother conversation because that story is a fascinating story of where that all ended. But I was there for over 7 years and worked my way up, got to a leadership position. And then I felt the stirring of wanting to do more. Like, I had felt like I had gotten that brand to a really good point where it was a jumping off point for me. And so I left Updesk and I tried to do my own thing, disrupting a certain industry. And again, that's a whole nother conversation that we could talk about, but
Wild.
yeah. Long story short, I had great momentum with that business idea, but it ultimately died. It was paused, not died. It was actually paused through COVID because the world changed.
Yeah, the world did change.
And then beyond that, it was just a series of e-commerce brands. And then I ultimately did it at RJ Young.
So talk to me a little bit about RJ Young and kind of your position there. Cause like I feel like you don't see the intersection of like marketing and customer experience that much. Talk to me, I guess, first about the why, right? Like what's the sort of like why those two things? Like, I've seen like customer success and customer experience. I've seen customer success and like strategy, right? Like those two things. And marketing, like, I obviously have my opinions as to why I think it works and why it's good, but like, what does that intersection do for you guys?
That's a great question. And I think just at the genesis of it, we care so much about our clients, so much so that we even have like a "we make it right" guarantee, meaning like if you're not satisfied with anything, we're going to make it right. So I think the genesis of merging marketing and customer experience together is just because we care so much about our clients that we want to bring value to them, not only on their day-to-day when they're using our products or services, but how we're communicating to them, like from a marketing perspective, right? We want to continue to bring them value, and that we're speaking to them into their problems and how we can help them solve those things. So to answer your question, we wanted to be intentional of introducing that personalized layer, if you will, by integrating our customer experience and marketing teams to really bring that value to our clients.
And then, so how does that work in practice? I'm like on the, I've got another tab open with like the RJ Young website. Like if I'm somebody who's buying, like I run a small business, right? And if I'm buying sort of like a suite of the office equipment and technology, like how are you sort of interfacing with me and my team? Like how does that kind of like work? Especially like the things that kind of come to mind there are, the technology evolves constantly, right? So like what's the sort of like, how does that kind of work? Like you understand kind of what I want. How do you like sort of put that back into the marketing flow?
So I would say our secret sauce is listening to you and your needs and sitting down and looking at your path, right? As a company to say, hey, I'm a team, and I'm just making this up for conversation, but like, hey, I'm a team of 5. I only need this amount of technology right now, but hey, in like, a couple of years, I envision my team doubling. And so we're going to listen to your feedback. We're going to take all that feedback and then give you a roadmap of like, here's where you can start today. But all of these systems not only scale, but they talk to each other. And so that's the value that RJ Young brings, especially to a team of like 5 to 10 people. It's like, we're bringing you like an enterprise level value from a consultative way to like, if you're starting out and then growing with you and helping you get what you need to succeed beyond that.
It sounds, really high touch and almost like an account, like what I'm hearing is almost sounds like an account management sort of role and structure, as opposed to, I think when a lot of other, CX is an interesting title because it's like for a lot of teams, it's like a rebrand of customer support, and kind of like, customer service. And so when you think about customer experience, it almost sounds more like it's a meld of like, how do we uphold this promise that we will always make it right? We will always deliver. We listen and can serve you both now and in the future. So how much is your kind of customer experience side of things a support role versus really like an account management and kind of like brand role?
It's both. So to give you a real life example, the director of customer experience that I hired just a little over a year ago, she and team have built out a knowledge base on our website that anyone can go to. So it's just a library of resources, both partner specific, FAQ specific, like it's just a massive library of resources that our clients can use, but also anyone who's just doing their own research could utilize this tool. That's the first part of it. The second part is if you're a client and like, so here's another real life example. LG uses a lot of our products just outside of Nashville. They're in Clarksville, one of their manufacturing plants. And they recently wrote us and they're like, hey, we love your products. We would just love to be trained on how to implement them correctly or how to optimize them. And so our director of customer experience actually physically visited them on site and helped and like held a physical like on-site training for them to help them learn and for them to ask questions. So it's both, right? It's that digital footprint of like really thinking through the client's lens to say, what would they need to know from us to be able to be happy with their product and service, but also be there if they want to do a physical on-site training, which is huge.
And close the loop for me, right? Like how does that funnel back into marketing? And I'm also, the next question I'm gonna ask, by the way, is like, you've said that you've worked at e-com companies, you've worked for both on the consumer and B2B side. I want to see where you take this. And then the next sort of thing that I'm going to do is like kind of expand it to that. Cause like a lot of our listener base is in sort of the consumer space. So yeah, would love to just kind of have you tie back to marketing. And I'm so curious.
I love it. So the conversations that our customer experience team that they're doing and the initiatives that they are working on, they're relaying all that information back to the marketing team. And so we're collaborating because of they're hearing the front lines of what clients are wanting, what they're asking for. We're collaborating to say, all right, cool. Well, we need to rethink our welcome journey, as a new client, or how do we reward those clients who have been clients, for I mean, we have some that have been around for 20 plus years or more even. So it's like, how do we recognize them? How do we celebrate them in a really intentional, high touch way? So that's an example of how customer experience and the marketing team were working together to really, again, it's all about value. How can RJ Young bring that value to our clients through really listening to what people are wanting, and then giving them solutions or proactively engaging them based on what we're finding out.
Interesting. So it's more of like okay. So what's interesting here is it sounds like the marketing function that you're a part of is a lot of the retention side of it too. Is there anything on the sort of growth side? Like I'm that because that makes a ton of sense, right? Where it's like, hey, like we want to make sure that these people land and expand, that they're, that they feel like they're a good part of that they're part of the family, that they feel valued. We had somebody on the podcast, again, very different company, Rebecca Blunt, who talked quite a lot about like surprise and delight. They run like a consumer business that's sort of like diapers delivered to your door. Like if you squint, it looks similar, where the folks are spending a lot more money because the diapers are higher quality, more luxurious, softer. They obviously, like, the product has its own benefits over a standard set of diapers, but people are spending more. They expect a higher experience. It sounds like if you squint, it looks pretty similar, but I'm also curious, just putting it out there, if there's anything sort of on the growth side that falls into as well.
I love the question. And so another real life example is we put together, so let me back up. When I got on the team of the marketing team, they were trying to do like 7 to 9 in-person events throughout the year. And with people being busy with their personal lives, but also their business life, it was hard to get people to come to that many events, throughout the year. And so a lot of energy went into the logistics of these things. And then it kind of fell flat as far as who actually showed up and what we saw from it. So I was like, can we just pause that for a second and really think through what we're trying to do? And so, without getting into all the details, and we can get as deep as you want, but essentially we've reevaluated that and started a whole new event concept called Tech Connect that we have every single year, one time a year that people plan for. And it's a huge like celebration. So it kind of nods to, paying homage to our existing customers, but from the growth side, we also have criteria that we give our sales teams to say, hey, whether they're existing or net new, like a prospect, if they fit this criteria, invite them to this event so they can see the full offering that RJ Young has. But also more importantly, they can just come hang out, have a good time, be entertained, and walk away with some kind of value. So our first time doing that was last year, and it was a massive success. We had over 500 people show up. We had over 22 of our vendors actually exhibit and showcase their latest and greatest. We had a world-known photographer and speaker and author do like a keynote speech. And then again, it all plays back into RJ Young and what we offer. So we basically have 4 main pillars of business within RJ Young. And essentially it's office equipment and technology, managed services and business process outsourcing, managed IT solutions, and digital communications. So the way that we did the event is we found a venue that had 4 floors, and each floor represented one of those pillars of business. And then we included every single partner within that pillar on that floor. So as a client, whether you're existing or a new prospect, you could literally walk the different floors and understand our pillars and see our partners who are part of that pillar and network with those people, which is game changing.
Side note, if that invitation's still open, I'm actually getting married that weekend. And so I'm going on my honeymoon, but I'm going to chat with my team and see if we've got someone that can come and hang out, because I really want to go.
You guys are more than welcome to come. It's Tuesday, June 3rd.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Cool. And then the thing that it's crazy because you guys are like more than 1,000 employees, right?
Actually, we're I think just shy of 700, so close.
Yeah. So like for a fairly large business, like it's so personal, it seems, which is the thing that keeps coming out. Like I kind of thought like it seems like very enterprisey from the outside, and I'm like, dang, you guys have a lot of like, you guys have somehow done this like we're gonna try to like keep this very, very one-to-one at a pretty high scale.
I love that you said that. Yeah, I like that's our that's our DNA. Is it's all about relationships. I'm sorry, Sean, I keep cutting you off, but like, I love that you took notice of that because that is so important to us. At the end of the day, if you don't have a relationship and trust, what do you have? Nothing.
Yeah, that's how we run our business. Sean, go.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, the website comes across as, super enterprisey, like management consulty. Like I expected you to be on this podcast, like in a suit and tie. And then you come in here and hit me with just like Southern charm immediately. And we're talking about, we used to live down the street from each other. And you mentioned Clarksville. I lived in Clarksville for years. And you led your intro with your family and your personal life. And then it was like, oh, by the way, this is also what I do for work, as opposed to, we've done 60 some of these podcasts now. Every single other person, it's like the intro might contain something about what they do outside of work, but it's everything else just works. It's just fascinating, different approach. And you can see like, not only is it a unique kind of business angle, but I think you can see how that, whether it drew you in and that was already who you were, or if it's just kind of like the culture has permeated to you, but you carry yourself very much as like, hey, let's just connect. That's what matters more than me telling you about my job and my business. And I think that's fascinating.
Yeah. The way that you introduced yourself to Sean was like the biggest eye opener of this to me, where it's like so many of these, because like usually what'll happen is like one of us will bring somebody on and the first part of the podcast is literally like you introducing yourself to the co-host. And I don't think I've ever had anyone, like most people don't introduce themselves. Like there's people that are like pretty quippy, that they're like, oh, like I'm X, here's my title, and this is my favorite food or something like that. Like they'll like put like a little like snippet in there where it's like, oh yeah, like I'm also a person. You started off by like being like, here's where I live, here's why I live there, here's who I'm married to, talk about your family. And then you're like, oh, by the way, I'm also like VP of marketing and customer experience. Like there's something inherently so simple about it, but it just breaks down those barriers and it makes it really easy. Because like we haven't had that many conversations, right? You and I've chatted once, we've emailed back and forth. I've canceled a meeting on you. I'm very sorry about that. I'm very excited to talk to you again. But it makes it so easy to have a conversation like this. And I feel like I completely, it also just makes me want to, it also makes me like want to interact with you guys more. Like, it's just like such a high touch. You don't know me and we're still just having this like great conversation. You're inviting people to come to the, I don't know if you guys call it an expo or a conference, but it seems like it's a mixture of both.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the compliments. Like that means a lot. And that's how I do business. And it sounds like you guys are very similar as well, because I do love just connect. I am passionate about connecting with people and just having really good conversations. My agenda is not to sell you, and your agenda for the show is not to sell me. It's like, let's just talk about a really cool and innovative thing that can hopefully help some other people listening into this podcast. So I'm passionate about that. So I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, like our Tech Connect event, we don't really want to call, I mean, is it a trade show at the end of the day? Yeah, it probably is, but we feel like there's so much value beyond that, because there's such that, I don't know if negative connotation is the right word, but there's a certain expectation with trade shows, like traditional trade shows, but this is so much more beyond that, because we're not trying to sell you. We genuinely want you to show up and just have a good time. So, I mean, the price to get into this event is $0. You have to pay nothing. We do optimize and curate the list of people that come, because we do want to make sure that we have that high quality person at the show who's really going to get value from it. So there's a little bit of that, but yeah, as far as it's a very low risk, for a client, and then being able to show up and be entertained and have great food and have drinks, and network, it's a very high value. And Sean, to your point, like we're constantly trying to beat expectations, not only meet them, but beat them. Like that's what we are really striving to do. And that's how we interact with our customers on a daily basis. It's the value that we're bringing to them as far as what, they're saying to us, so we're listening, and then giving them events like Tech Connect. So I really appreciate the kind words, and I can assure you it's genuine, and that's really the DNA of RJ Young.
I want to spend some time, I don't know what this can go, but I want to spend some time taking your experience on the consumer side and kind of like asking the question of, I think that there's a ton of value in taking that experience on the CX side and putting it back into marketing. Like a good example is like one of our customers. They run sort of a CRM team for a large scale consumer business, and they sent us an entire doc about how they want to install they want to use one of our products to install like a listener on top of their customer experience, like all of their call transcripts, and pass that information back into the CRM team, right? Like, if the customer sounded upset, like figure out what they were upset about and like figure out a way of scaling just like sending an apology email, right? Like there's so much that you can get from just being like, hey, we're really sorry. Like we know that you had a frustrating experience. We're really sorry about that. Anything from that all the way to putting them into a persona, understanding what products they're likely to buy, all that kind of stuff. And I'm curious from your perspective, like what ideas you have on how to kind of scale that. Because as your business grows, it becomes more and more difficult to give that personalized experience at scale. And I'm just kind of thinking about, I don't know, there's a ton of ways to do it, right? Like there's obviously scaling it on the human side, there's scaling it with technology. Curious to see what you think of that. I don't know if you guys are doing anything right now, or if you've done anything at previous jobs.
Yeah, that thinking is so important of, using technology, especially with what's going on with AI right now, but also not losing the human side of it. So to me, that's very important to understand is like, yes, like if you don't have chat GPT on your phone right now, like what are you even doing right now? Like embrace AI and understand the tools that are out there, but also very important, that can't just be, set it and forget it, never having a human aspect as part of that. And so a real life example is our customer experience team, one of our partners, they're Intermedia, and they're a phenomenal partner with RJ Young, but they have a product that essentially listens to phone calls. So when the client calls our customer care team, this, tool is running in the background, listening to the conversation. And then our director of customer experience can go in and review those calls. There's even some AI within that tool to show the sentiment of the call. And then that also plays into goes further into like our NPS scores. Once we talk to someone, we send them a survey to say, hey, how was your service? Or, hey, how was your interaction with our customer care? And we get their active feedback. So it's like we talked about before, it's just a continuous loop of feedback that we're getting from the customer using technology. And then we have the human side, like analyzing that data and then working with marketing to double down on that data to make data to make like campaigns. Or I love your idea of following up to say like, hey, sorry, we messed that up or something like that. It just proves that we're using technology for scalability, but then we have the human side of it that makes it more personal.
This is kind of a one-off tangential question, but I'm curious because it seems like since you guys prioritize the connection so much, I would hazard a bet that engagement with any sort of email you send out is way higher than, like a standard benchmark would be, right?
Yes.
So when y'all send out your NPS surveys and stuff like that, like what sort of response rate are you getting, knowing that, for most companies it's relatively low, but for most companies it's just 1 out of a 10,000 email automations they have going.
So this is something that I'm so proud about, and it is a collaborative effort. So hear me clearly say it's not just our customer care team, it is also our service team. That's what, outside of my umbrella, it's our sales team who interacts with the customer. So it's certainly a team effort. So don't hear me say this is strictly a customer care thing, but it's something that I really want to brag about because the gold standard for an NPS score is typically around 70. That's like showing that you're doing a really good job of listening to the customer and you have trust with them. Well, RJ Young, we're over 90. We have over a 90 rating on NPS. And so that's for a business of our size. I mean, we're across I think 9 states at this point. We're just shy of 30 locations. We're just at 700 total employees. So a company of our size to have that strong of an NPS score, which is like really world-class essentially. And we've done that year after year. It's quite remarkable.
If you were to go back, if you were to leave RJ Young and become, head of CX and marketing or whatever at an e-com brand now, like what would be the lessons you brought there?
So it's a fascinating question for me personally. So I came from an e-commerce business that essentially exploded in COVID. They had a product that just resonated with people in that time. And so they could not, the demand was so intense that it was hard for them to keep up. And so, but now that we're, 5 years beyond COVID, looking back at that, I'm like, that was so much fun to be a part of that. And we built a great thing, and e-commerce was a massive spoke as part of that wheel. But now that we're 5 years beyond, I'm curious of like, they've already touched so many people through their marketing as far as audience goes, and they had so many customers, but that particular product was kind of like a one and done. Now they have done a really good job of like, cross-selling and upselling, but their essential product, it lasts a long time. So I guess what I learned through that at RJ Young is like, okay, how do you take a massive customer existing base and innovate on that to spark growth and to spark value? And so that would be how, if I were to go back to that company of e-commerce, that's the type of conversation that I'd be having with them, is like, okay, hey, we did this amazing thing through COVID and really brought value to people, and it was an amazing process and people were excited. How are we bringing new value to them in today's time? Like, what are we doing to really expand and take advantage of that customer base and that audience base, knowing that we've already really touched them that one time? How do we use innovation to grow that even more? What comes to mind for me for that particular company is like, they could potentially become like a startup, like incubator, like working with brands that align with their current audience or not, but they have the trust from that umbrella company to say like, hey, you trusted us to buy X. Now we're spinning off these new brands, whether it's private label or acquiring some. That's what I would be pitching to them if I was back at that company in the D2C world, to say like, hey, use innovation for your massive existing customer base, as opposed to, continuing to drill them on that same kind of product offer.
What do you think the role of a marketer or a CX leader is in some of those conversations about like, how do we innovate? How do we bring new things? Right. I think, to make a short question, a long question, a lot of teams would say the marketer comes in after the product's figured out, figures out how to position it, figures out what you're going to, make your catchphrases and how you're going to launch it and go to market. But the actual conversation about the innovation and coming up with, whether it's an incubator idea or a holding company idea, like, what's marketing's role there?
I love that question, because marketing is, if you're not involved in the product, like, I'm not saying that you're the one to actually find the product and developing and all that, but if you're not part of those conversations, you need to be. Like, in my mind, that's the new marketing. And that's where I feel like my background is unique, especially in those standing desk company days, because I wore so many different hats. Like, I was the social media guy. I was the customer service guy. I did help develop the product and find manufacturers and design and all these things. So that only like created value for me and my career, the trajectory of my career, because if you're in marketing, like, you've got to have some kind of concept of that world to be able to market efficiently and effectively, in my opinion. So I think that would be my advice. If you're in marketing right now, like, of course, learn about AI, like, devote as much time as you can to learn about AI and all those things. But there's also really important things that have been around forever, like product development, and those strategies that you've got to be aware of.
I think this has been a phenomenal conversation, Kamron. I really appreciate you coming on. Before we wrap up, is there anything you want to publicize? Is there anywhere people can get in touch with you if they want to hear more, if they want to learn more about RJ Young, if they want to work with you? Like, where's the best place for people to find you?
Thank you so much. So again, Kamron Kunce, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect. I'm a big collaborator. I love to have conversations. This doesn't feel like work to me. So if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can find me there. RJ Young is just www.rjyoung.com. And you can submit a contact form. We have like a website kind of questionnaire that you can fill out that helps us direct what you actually need or what you're actually wanting to know. So those are two ways that you can connect with me.
Amazing. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.